My name is Jeff Latas, and I spent my entire career defending the Constitution of the United States in the Air Force. I put myself through school in employment in small businesses. I started my employment in small businesses. Small businesses have actually given me the opportunity to actually achieve the American dream. I pumped gas, I worked at a ranch, I was a framer in a small carpentry outfit here in Tucson. I know the importance and what that brings to the vitality of the community. Small businesses is the lifeblood of the community. Now, I did spend my career in the Air Force. I too have been over there and defended the pipelines of the current economy that's being fueled by oil right now. This is an important thing because we have to end our dependency on oil. That is also going to be an extremely important asset to the small business owners. Currently in America, it's closing in on 50 million Americans that don't have any insurance at all. This is a cost of about $100 billion to us taxpayers. Americans do get provided health care. They've been provided health care, but it's very expensive because there's not any insurance for them other than they get very sick, they end up going to the hospital, they can't pay their bills. Next thing you know, that burden is put on the taxpayers' back. I believe all Americans should have affordable health care. The burden shouldn't be put on the businesses, it should be put on the government itself. All Americans should have insurance. I'm a believer in a universal health care plan, using a progressive type of plan, where the lower income perhaps don't pay anything at all. The upper level income levels would pay approximately 7 to 8% of their gross adjusted income. This would take the burden off the employers and put the burden back into the government. This is one area that the government actually does the best job at. I support a pooling of small businesses by all means because it does offer certain advantages to the employees and the employers to actually bring the cost down. Now, I'm a father of a son that's had 2 cases of cancer. There are so many people out there that aren't given that opportunity to have health insurance because it is unaffordable at the small business level. If I would have been in that situation, there would have been a good chance that my son would not have survived the first case of leukemia that he had, or would he have been able to survive the second relapse that he had of leukemia. Definitely, it would be a very big problem during the bone marrow transplant that he actually experienced only about 4 months ago. Insurance is very important for our public, and all Americans should have affordable health care, and to actually deny them that actual right would actually be criminal and a death sentence to many people. Employees should be verified. As a matter of fact, there's one company, I believe it's Lowe's Theater, actually every month submits a list of their employees' Social Security numbers to the Social Security Agency to verify that those are all valid Social Security numbers. Now, that doesn't mean that those can't be fraudulent Social Security numbers, but they actually attempt to be legal in their hiring practices. There are many companies that take advantage of this situation. We have laws on the books that need to be enforced. Those laws on the books have been there for years. We wouldn't be facing this current immigration problem if we would have just followed those laws many years ago and stuck to our guns. The corporations that are taking most advantage of this breaking the law are usually the larger corporations, the meat packers. It's more cost effective for them to actually pay the fines right now than to hire legally. That puts the burden on us. We're the ones being punished right now because we have higher taxes right now to pay for the infrastructure and the health care costs of many of these undocumented workers, all because of companies like Tyson Chicken, Walmart, and all the other big multinational companies refuse to do it. We pick up that burden. We need to make this a fair system, and if the laws need to be more strict in order to put the pain on these companies to obey the law, then let's do it. The law has to be enforced, and the law has to fit the crime. And in this case, if we're the ones paying for that crime, it is totally unfair to the taxpayers of the United States. It's a much bigger problem than just tax cuts. Right now we're living in a world of borrow and spend. We're running up close to a $10 trillion budget or debt right now, owned by countries like China, Saudi Arabia, and Japan. This has gotten away because of the tax cuts given to Americans overall. When you take a look at the top 1% of the population that owns the wealth here, they own 30% of the wealth, the top 1%. But yet they get the largest tax break that this country has ever seen in its nation's history. There's something wrong with this. We've seen this transfer of wealth from the lower and poverty levels to the wealthy. This is a Robin Hood in reverse, only it's at a national level. We need to cut the tax. We need to repeal the tax breaks to the top 1%. We need to kill the deficit spending. We need to get a grip on the debt that we now owe to all these countries because it is a national security problem. I find this kind of a puzzling question because I see energy companies earning the largest revenue ever in the history of mankind. When you see companies making $10 billion worth of profit in revenue in one quarter, but yet you give them a subsidy just a year ago over the entire industry of $7 billion, don't you think it's time for them to pay their due? It's their turn. They're the ones that are taking the ride right now, and it's on our backs. We need to tax offshore corporate offshore businesses. This is something that's been brought up many, many times, but yet this government allows these corporations to basically rob the revenue of our personal pockets and end up funding them by putting them into the Caribbean or off in the Man Islands or something like that. This is wrong. Companies need to pay their fair share of taxes as well. One thing that hadn't been addressed, and that's energy. We are on the threshold, if not through the doorway, of the biggest energy crisis this country has ever seen. Once we as a people start feeling that pinch, once we start really having to really pay for gasoline, there will be some bipartisan cooperation because it's going to hurt the American people, the American will. I propose that we need to end our dependency on oil. It is connected to the environment. It is connected to our national security. It's connected to our economy. It's connected to our foreign policy. It's connected to everything that we do right now in terms of the national government and overseas relationships. We need to end our dependency on oil. We need to do it as fast as we possibly can. I have the know-how because I'm an aerospace engineer. I have actually studied energy systems. I can articulate that across the aisle to the Republican contingency, and I know that I can convince them that my ideas are the best. This country has gone down the wrong road for too many years. And like my previous speakers have talked about, this is a nation now that's ruled by a wealthy class. There are only 5 congressmen right now that depend on the congressional paychecks. The rest of them are independently wealthy. Only 5 members of Congress, maybe 6 now, because I just saw where Senator McCain actually is sending his son off into the Marines. Only 5 to 6 now have kids that are actually in the military that could actually serve in the current occupation in Iraq. We are a country that's faced with multiple problems, but we are addressed with 3 major problems that will end the civilization that we actually live in right now. We need to face this energy crisis that we're going to be facing, or we will be in deep trouble. This is a crisis that's led us into 30 years of increased violence and military action in the Middle East, which spawned the terrorists who actually attacked our country. It's our greed for that oil, which we use 25% on a daily basis, and we only have 5% of the population. This is a problem that's contributed to global warming, a problem that we are now realizing is really true. And it's also contributed to the national debt and the deficit problems that we have and see annually. We have to get our hands on that. We have to get our hands on it by sending real people to Congress, not paid political assassins. We got to go there with people who understand your needs, the people, the public. I want to go to Congress because I want to represent you. I don't want to represent a wealthy class that coats my pocket with green cash. I want to represent you because that is the way this Constitution designed our government. I want to be your representative for Congress. I also have information in the back. You're welcome to it. Thank you very much, and I appreciate the small business owners.